Welcome to Let's Chat, where we get to know our CPRS Vancouver Island members. Today, we're meeting with Dr. Chase Remillard from Royal Roads University. Welcome, Chase. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us today and being a member of CPRS Vancouver Island. Can you tell us a bit about why you joined the society?
Well, I joined CPRS primarily because of the fact that I work in an industry, in academics that has a lot of crossover with the members that are in CPRS and local as well as national. And, a lot of the students that we have, both as the undergraduate and graduate students, will be members. And so it's really important for me as an academic to have a kind of an understanding of what the practice is and to stay contemporary with what is best practice and what is contemporary practice. So that's sort of the big reason why I joined, is because I wanted to, to be able to supplement all of the academic understanding of communications as a practice with what folks are doing in the field, and what's the innovations and what are the sort of contemporary discussions that folks are having.
Yeah, that's great. It's definitely good to stay on top of all the latest trends because things are changing so rapidly these days as well. Absolutely. So can you tell us a bit more about your professional role?
So I'm program head for the Bachelor and Master's Professional Communications at Royal Roads University. I'm also a member of the National Education Council with CPRS. And so in those roles, basically, I'm there, as I see it, to sort of look over curriculum and look for ways in which curriculum can be improved for students of communications, but also for practitioners who want to become students or students entering into the realm of practice. So ways that our offerings and the education that we can provide can be more valuable and have more traction for them when they get out into the working world.
Well, it's definitely appreciated as a student. Having this relevant content has been really helpful to really put things into perspective as we learn to adapt to the new technologies and being online. I know Royal Roads has had a history of being online. I really like the bus ad you have near the school with it's like, we've always been online, or with the tagline that you have chosen there. It's a really powerful image, and it's something I see every time I go to campus. It's very good. Do you have a favorite word or expression that you like to use?
I mean, I think one of the things that I always talk about is that communications is really about shared meanings and looking for meanings. And I think so meaning is, meaning and meaning making processes are really, for me, the core of sort of communication study and practice. And so, if I were to say what would be a favorite word related to communications, I would maybe be meaning, or if it was two words, meaning, understanded meanings or shared meanings. I think that's really at the core of it, because without those shared meanings, you're not really, you're not getting people understanding you not understanding them. And ultimately for a professional communicator, it's about using communications to leverage or to achieve organizational goals. And so if the audience or the stakeholders or the folks that you're trying to reach don't understand the message that you're sending them, they're not going to react to it or to act on it in the ways that are going to be beneficial for that organization. So I would say something like meaning or shared meaning.
Absolutely, especially in the world today where there's so much misinformation. And one of the biggest things that I've learned in my bachelor program so far is about how reality only exists as far as we agree on what's real. There's no objective truth. And so having meaning and being able to convey that to other people is an extremely powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of went into a bit of what public relations and communications means to you. Do you kind of have any more to say on that matter, or why you chose the field of communication?
I mean, I kind of chose the field separate from the professional practice of it. I think I came from a background, I think a lot of people might kind of empathize with this or identify with this. It came from a background where I was very much interested I studied in my undergraduate, studies was in literature and history, but it was those pursuits were very like disconnected for me in important ways about what was going on in the contemporary culture. And so I was always really interested in the ways in which communication thing, media were, pushing boundaries around identities, pushing boundaries around, how do we know what it means to be Canadian? What are these imagined communities? How do we know what it means to be, a person or a grown up? How do we get these senses of ourselves? And so I really was really sort of pushed into my graduate studies towards communication and culture, because it sort of is for me like an intersection between those questions of identities and culture and the practice by which those get maintained in society. And so communications is sort of the means by which those meanings are held up and kind of supported and change over time. And so then, as I studied communications, of course, then the question of, well, what is professional practice, or public relations or professional communications? Because there's the theoretical side of it, but then there's also the side by which you know public relation practitioners are involved in. And so those questions then kind of translated into even more real world, or more important in a way. I mean, not more important, but more, let's say, pragmatic questions like, what's the public perception of forest fires if they see images of forest fires online, versus if they watch the news, the press releases by the premier? Are they getting different, like you said, I suggested, are they getting different constructed realities? Are they seeing this the same way? And this is something that's become more and more interesting right now for us in this time, especially during pandemic and quarantine, and the way that social media now is really sort of our primary mechanism of knowing the world around us at a distance. And the way that big data shapes what we see, and news can be kind of filtered into our worlds by what we've liked and discussed with other people previously. So the impact for that from a professional communications point of view for me is that it makes questions of public policy, of health, of sustainability, of all of these things really challenging and dynamic for a professional communicator who might be in government relations, or even industries like resource companies, and they're questioning what is the perception of the pipeline from the public, and they're getting all of these different types of input, right? So that's sort of where it crossed over for me, is that I started to make friends, and I connected with people who were in CPRS, who were doing these really interesting things and living these interesting problems and kind of puzzling through them. And then as an academic, I became interested in that practice. And so as I've actually been involved with CPRS, my interest in the professional side of communications has grown, and most of my research now is really related much more so to the professional practice, whereas at first it was much more theoretical. So I've kind of had like this trajectory where now I'm more interested in Justin Trudeau's Instagram account, in terms of what is it doing for constructing an image of him as a politician, than previously, where I might be thinking about a hypothetical about how images are producing sort of hypothetical understandings of what it means to be Canadian, right? So there is a through line there, but it's become more grounded in professional practice.
Excellent. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I chose this field as well. Is there's just so much. There's just always different things to do. It's one of the interesting things everybody's always asking me, like, what are you actually studying for? Because like a lot of people don't understand what we do, which is ironic because that's we're supposed to be able to tell people things in a convincing way. But there's just so many different avenues that you can go down in this field, and that just aligns well for a lot of people, myself included. So. Our last question is just a little bit of personal, kind of getting to know you. What have you done to keep yourself entertained over the last year? If you've had any spare time running the department and all that.
So what have I done? I've spent a lot more time, I'd say, with my 7-year-old. Being that she was out of school, and then also just working from home. So there's been a lot of really good time where I've been able to have more time with her, as as a parent, and also with my family, with my wife as well. And so yeah, there's been a lot of I've been lucky because there's been a lot of quality family time that I've had over the last however many months it's been. It's almost a year now, I guess. And then I think other than that, I've actually tried to run. I have this sort of love-hate relationship with running. So I start to run and then I stop running after a couple of weeks, and then I have to start back up again. So yeah, I would say, I'm pretty busy at work, and I've kind of been, between work and family has been sort of the main focus of staying sane. But I do try to get a little bit of exercise in there, and we have a couple dogs, so they also always take up time at the park or whatever.
Yeah. That's great. The animals definitely keep us outside because it's hard sometimes to, leave the bubble of our home. But I agree. My son is older. And so having this opportunity, he graduated in 2019 from high school. And so we had this sort of year where I was expecting him to leave the nest, but actually neither of us left home. And so we spent a lot of time together and went on long drives and watched a lot more, TV together, and just really bonded. And it's great if you have a good family connection, really can strengthen this during this pandemic. It's been obviously a huge negative in a lot of ways, but the more people I've spoken to, a lot of people are saying they found these moments of joy and in the good side of the negative, which has been really inspiring. Mm-hmm. So thank you for taking the time to chat with us today and get to know you a bit better. And if anybody else would like to participate in our series, please give us a shout on our social channels, and we would be happy to chat with you as well. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.